Nintendo Entertainment System. Now you're playing with power.
TurboGrafx 16 from NEC, the higher energy video game system.
When you've got Sega Saturn, nothing else matters.
Sega!
Xbox Live. It's good to play together.
We would like to play.
So here we are, the very first monthly pickups video to add to my collection, and I hope you guys enjoy this. I got some newer titles and some older titles, and I think one that's going to be kind of unexpected. So I'm really happy to add these games. I have played them before, and the videos you will see below are not my recordings. I didn't really have time to do that, so if you look down below in the description, you will see the recordings that I am using for this video. So, hope you guys enjoy, and let's get this thing started. Coming in at number 1 is Ratchet & Clank on the PlayStation 4. It's developed by Insomniac, the people who brought you the previous Ratchet & Clank titles, and published by Sony Interactive Entertainment. All your favorite characters are back, Quark, Ratchet & Clank included. Of course, why would it be otherwise? Now, the game is not a sequel, nor it is a reboot or a remake of the original game. It is a reimagining. So it's simply the same story, and it's the next Ratchet & Clank game. Remember, it hasn't been that long since A Crack in Time came out. So there's a lot of people saying nostalgia plays a big part in playing this game, and I can understand that if you're referring to only the first game, but not the series in itself. It came out in April of this year, and it's a platformer shooter. And platforming titles seem to be scarce among other systems other than Nintendo, which is a real shame, because once you get a game with a lot of charm, such as the Ratchet & Clank series, it really engrosses the player into the universe and really gets you to care about the characters. It's very important for a game's storyline. The game mechanics are very similar to what the games have been over the years, but the difference between this and the first game, and that's what really is going to engross the players, is the strafing elements, and the upgrade system has been refined, much like from the second game onward. So you didn't see that in the original title. What the original title did have is the fact that it played at 60 frames per second. In this one, it only plays around 30 frames per second, and luckily it's hardly noticed due to the developers using some type of heavy motion blur to affect the lack of smoothness in the gameplay. Now, about the story being the same, it's more or less the plot is similar. The game has changed so much, and so many things are different compared to the first one, it almost feels like a brand new game, and that's the point. The weapons and gameplay of the weapons are very similar and reminiscent of all previous titles, so you can take that however you want. In my case, I'm taking it as a positive, because that's why I play Ratchet & Clank. The quirkiness and the humor is all there, and even some Clank sections. Now, these sections have been criticized in the past, including myself, that they're boring and frustrating and probably shouldn't be there in the first place. However, from what I've played so far in this Ratchet & Clank, the Clank section's actually pretty fun, and it actually has a point to the story. Such as right here when we first see Clank, he's in a runaway scene with this giant robot, and the action gets pretty intense. You don't know what's happening, and if I was to compare this to the first game, nothing like this happened. And they even changed the fact when Ratchet and Clank first met, and actually they originally hated each other, so this is actually quite new. I'm looking forward to where this Ratchet and Clank is heading.
Up and down.
My next title is, yes, an Xbox game by the name of Psychonauts. It came out in 2010 by Double Fine Productions and published by Majesco Entertainment. Now, although this game is hilarious, and the director was Tim Schafer, who is also hilarious and makes pretty much cult-followed games, the game was unfortunately a commercial failure. It just didn't sell a lot, which is really unfortunate. This quirky platformer is just non-stop humor from beginning to end. I've only played about a couple hours of it with my friend, but from what I've seen so far, there's a reason why this game is quite popular, and still carries a little bit of a hefty price, from anywhere from $20 to $50. The game's overall design and character design is quite funny and different. Much like Nightmare Before Christmas-esque. Our story follows Rez, who joins this military-type camp developing telekinetic powers. And even though it's a platformer game and you start off by only running and jumping, you slowly but surely start to develop telekinesis, pyrokinesis, etc. The game focuses on our character Rez developing his psychic powers and switching between the real world of the camp and entering the mental worlds of many different characters in the game. The different art and level designs through each of these mental worlds offer a bit of an interesting aesthetic to the game and keeps it fresh and interesting. And of course, the humor doesn't leave even in there. You must do things like solve emotional baggage and collect figments of their imagination, etc. It's all very clever. Even at the end of each mental world, there's a boss battle, and I've only played one to date. And so far, so good. I have no complaints about this game. My friend said it's a little bit stale and the humor lays off fairly quickly, but I disagree, so I guess it varies from person to person, which is why this game is pretty much a cult following. It seems that you either really like it or you think otherwise. I found the platform elements pretty smooth and enjoyable, not really any problems there. Nor did I have any problems with how the game ends up playing out level to level. But again, I've only played an hour or two of it. You find yourselves ranking your psi power up to get more telekinetic powers, and kind of boosting them up. Each little section at the end offers something a bit different each and every time, just like the level designs. So, such as here, we're battling some sort of Gatling gun, and you have to knock down the walls. So these are just some of the many elements the game has to offer. And again, the humor is what makes this game. I can't recommend this game enough so far, and I'm looking forward to completing this game at some point. Next is a physical copy on the PS4 of Brothers, A Tale of Two Sons. This game is developed by Starbury Studios and published by 505 Games. Basically a European indie company. Really small, and they developed a very peaceful, yet sad, third-person perspective game of two brothers trying to save their father from an illness. Instantly, the story starts off on a sad note when the younger brother relives the moment when his mother died in front of his eyes. The story elements and plot developments have a lot to do, at least in my perspective, of the old Brothers Grimm stories. But the gameplay element is where it gets a little interesting here. All the in-game dialogue is spoken through a fictional language that sounds to me a lot like a mixture between German and some type of Scandinavian language like Norwegian or Swedish. So the story is conveyed through the actions and gestures and expressions of the two brothers as they go through this journey to try and save their father. Basically, they have to travel a long way to get water from the Tree of Life to help him revive from his illness. Over the course of the story, the brothers must face trials that they have to overcome, and it's a sad story. I mean, I've played this multiple times, and this is the main reason why I had to get a physical copy. It actually hit me in more ways than one. But what's probably the most interesting part of the game, besides the spoken dialogue, is the fact that the whole game is essentially played with you controlling both brothers at once. The left analog stick moves one young brother, and the right analog stick moves the other, and the respective triggers also convey their actions. The game throws in some interesting puzzle elements, along with some platforming sections that keep the game fresh, other than just having you control the two brothers at once. The game is critically receptive, and standing in at a short, about 4 hours on average, it's immensely interactive and emotional. It's an emotional ride that I recommend to anybody. Please play this game. Square Enix brings you Star Ocean: The Second Story, a bit of a different RPG than people are normally used to, such as Final Fantasy or Dragon Quest. But right away, we're introduced to the typical PlayStation cinematic to get you engrossed in the story. I mean, we're in space, there's a meteor that hits, what's going on with this? It's all very interesting in the end, and it's come to what we expect, or what we expected of Square Enix in the 90s, and that's what made it so great. cinematics such as this just really makes you want to know what is happening in Star Ocean, or even just an RPG in general, any story. This opening really got me to want to play this game. I've beaten this game on an emulator, and I wanted to buy a physical copy for such a long time, but the price was high, and now I finally got one. We have 2 heroes to choose from, Cloud and Reyna, with 3 different battle modes, a standard, a semi-active, and full active. So it's not your typical turn-based strategy game, it's more of a targeting, action-based, which was very different from the 90s, and more of what we see in RPGs today. So our main story here takes place about 20 years after the original and first game, which unfortunately I haven't had the chance to play yet. But Claude and his father and some expedition crew are sent to investigate this mysterious force field tomb round thingy. And upon entering, they have their reservations, and of course our main character Claude here gets sucked into a vortex of some sorts and mysteriously transported to another planet where he meets our other main character, Reyna. Now this is on planet Expel, and Reyna mistakes him as the hero of light spoken of the legends from the planet because he wields this mysterious sword of light. Well, random battles encounter, and so that's typical of an RPG. But the way the gameplay goes about it is very much different. It's kind of if you've ever played Secret of Mana, it's an action RPG, but it's because of the random encounters, it's still sort of turn-based. You have to target enemies and attack them with your various techniques. Your characters learn different techniques such as magic and melee, etc., etc. And you gain experience and your characters get stronger. So, in that regards, the game is very similar because it's made by Square Enix, and that's what RPGs come to expect, but with the action and targeting element, it's very different. I can't wait to play this game again, and unlock the mystery of how Claude got to where he was. Now for the big dog, Dark Souls 3, developed by From Software, the people who brought you the Soul series. And many people don't know, they also brought you the Armored Core series. I was a big fan of the Armored Core series, but more importantly, Bandai Namco and From Software have hit this game out of the park. Personally, I've never been a fan of the Dark Souls games previously, but when they changed up the mechanics in Bloodborne and took that engine and element into Dark Souls 3, I was totally sold. The visuals and action of this game are outstanding. The difficulty is reminiscent of old Nintendo games where you're meant to die and learn from your mistakes. There are elements in which that are similar to Bloodborne, such as the dodge rolling, bonfires serve as checkpoints as normal, and collecting souls to level up as you destroy characters or NPCs, and of course the boss battles make this game. Now, upon doing some research in the game, or at least I think this is accurate, the magic system returned from Demon Souls into this game known as focus points. So you can use 2 types of flax to either refill your health or the magic points. And that brings a little bit of a different gameplay element as opposed to the clunky nonsense that at least I found Dark Souls 1 and 2. Now back to why we play Dark Souls 3, besides the difficulty level. The amount of imagination it takes to create a game like this, I am still perplexed, intrigued. There's so many words to describe my awe about this game. I mean, let's just take a moment to look at the visuals. Whenever you look at a game like this, it's what people want today. They want this open world kind of environment. I mean, when you stand upon this cliff at the very beginning of the game, and you see the world that lies before you, you realize you can pretty much go to all these places. And that's remarkable compared to what we remember playing of in years past. Now for the important part, boss battles. What I don't like about Dark Souls is the cryptic clues that always involve these things. You never know really what you're supposed to do next, but that's what makes the community in this game so important. It brings somewhat of a different element to it of what we used to know games as, playing on the playground and trying to get those codes. Be prepared to die in this massively difficult game. So I hope you guys really enjoyed that. So as a recap, Ratchet & Clank, fantastic. It's not a reboot nor a remake. Psychonauts is hilarious. Please go out and find it. Star Ocean is... I love it. It's an RPG. It's exactly what you want in an RPG, with more action elements than expected. Dark Souls 3 is amazing. I probably plan on doing some push-up challenge to how many times I die. And Brothers really hits me in a special place. If you haven't played it yet, I implore you, find it on Steam. It's on a plethora of platforms. I really encourage you to find it and play it, and maybe contact me and tell me what you think about it. It's a real special game that everyone should play. And I'm looking forward to seeing what else I get next month.